So at this point, there's my collar band that was attached to my shirt. There is the 5/8 inch extensions, pulled out at both sides. And you are now going to take that collar that came off of the ham. Okay? This was collar that was steamed on the ham. Take that collar that was set off the ham. Remember, it does need to be basted in order to make sure that that beveled edge that you had in place there stays beveled. The pins that are poking out of this, poking straight through, are the pins that were attaching it to the ham, and so you can go ahead and take those pins out. Quick review here. Take those pins out, set them to the side. And then again, the pins that we used as we pinned this around the ruler to get for that turn of cloth, we are going to leave those in place, if you will. Put the machine on basting. Keep that curve that was there. This is a quick review. Baste along that edge. The reason I'm holding my hand up against that collar again is that is where the roll line was while it sat on the ham. I started at center back, baste towards the front edge. Now I am basting this particular one with a different colored thread so that you can see it, so that it stands out, because this fabric is quite bright and quite active. It's a little bit difficult to see what happens if I use a matching thread. So I'm basting it with the different colored thread. I will actually pull it out and baste it with the appropriate threads in a moment here, so that you can see what happened. Again, notice we're staying up with that rolled edge, keeping the curve that was in that collar. Basting off the front, off that front side there. And so there's that row of basting that's keeping those 3 layers so that they don't align as we pin this to the collar, as we pin this collar to the collar band. And so that would now be ready to pin to a collar band. That is now what has happened to this collar. So there's the row of basting that actually matches this one. When you put these together, you are going to have right side of shirt, and you can tell it's the right side of shirt. There's the placket, or there's the yoke, there's my pocket, right side of collar band, and right side of collar. Everything you are looking at is right side up. If you make a mistake and you get this collar upside down, instead of that curve, that favor that we've created in order for the collar tip to curl down to the shirt, it will be upside down and it will tend to flip up, and you will look like the pretty little Dutch girl with your collar curling up away from you. So be certain you have right side of collar, right side of band, right side of shirt. Okay? And then this stitches 5/8 of an inch in much the same technique that the collar band went to the shirt. We are going to put this under the sewing machine, and that very first stitch is right where the collar meets the collar band. And you sew onto the shirt. At 5/8 of an inch. As you're sewing, you will see there's a little bubble in your collar there as you get this seam now flat. Remember, we basted those edges, making certain that the favor would stay in, which means there's a little bubble as it lays flat. There's supposed to be that little bubble there. Please do not try to get rid of it. That bubble is there so that when the collar again rolls up from the collar band and down towards the shirt, that turn of cloth allows the collar to lay smooth. And so keep that in there. And again, like we talked about before, I kind of like to hold a little bit in front of the sewing machine, in front of the presser foot that's going, and behind it, giving it a little bit of tension. Making certain that my seam allowance stays smooth and well defined. biggest trick here, because all your edges are flat and the curve is closer, is to just make sure you stay at 5/8 of an inch, because we're going to use this stitching line as a guideline in a future step. Now when I pinned this, I checked to make certain that the collar was symmetrical. So I lined up center back, lined up my clips, lined up my notches, lined up my marks at the front, and then as I pinned it, I actually folded this in half, lined up the collar, and made sure that I had the exact same different distance from the collar to the front of that collar band, that it wasn't sitting offset, because if it sits offset, your collar will be not aligned in the center front, it will be asymmetrical, if you will, and sit off to the side. So I checked that when I pinned it, and now that I've sewed it, I check it again to make sure that as I was stitching, the presser foot pushing on the fabric did not pull that the other direction. Now the other thing I'm going to check now is make certain that the tips of my collar, now that I've sewed that, I'm going to pull back my seam and pull back my seam and make sure that the tips of my collar are the same length. Coming out of my shirt, the actual tips of the collar are the same length, that I don't have one that is longer than the other, so that when they curl down I have a long collar and a short collar. So very important to check for symmetry as you go.